Hello, yes, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV, and this is our second beginner sailing lesson that we're going to take a look at. We're going to take a look at sailing the boat upwind and downwind. Before we go, we can actually take a look at where we're going to go. This is quite accurately where we're going to go, so we'll take a look at this. So to sail the boat upwind meaning towards where the wind is coming from. So from here, that would mean like if we wanted to sail to Ithaca, the island over there, we'd have to sail upwind or into the wind. We have to do a series of zigzags, which will take us at 45 degrees or thereabouts either side of the direction of the wind. And then we tack and do the same on the other side. So we keep doing that. All right, so the first thing we have to do is get on the boat. So I'm doing this solo this time, so this is going to be a bit more tricky than the last time. The wind's quite light, very good idea for your first sails to go out in quite light wind. There's enough wind to make our telltales fly, and that's a good way of knowing that there's enough wind to actually sail. If these bad boys won't fly at all, then perhaps there's not actually enough wind to sail. All right, so we do have to hold the boat at the front. I'm in water which is about waist deep, and I just want to get a little bit of rudder down before we set off. So I'm just going to the back, being careful to keep the boat pointing into the wind. And in fact, I'm just putting one rudder halfway down there, and then I'm going to jump on with a big boost. Swimming pool technique that time. You could of course use the trapeze handles. Okay, and then I'm just going to steer the boat a little bit just to get us away from the beach. And then once we've got a little bit of distance away from the beach, we can then put the rudders down and get a bit more prepared. Okay, so I'm quite happy with this as a distance. So I'll just finish putting this rudder down first, lifting the bar, pushing it back, and then clipping it down. And then we do have to be careful going on to the leeward side of the boat down here if there is any wind, but the wind's so light that we're okay. Pushing it back, clipping it in, rudders are down, getting the tiller extension out of the water. And now I'm going to pull enough downhaul on just to put a bit of shape into the sail. Okay, downhaul's a little bit sticky. Sometimes you just have to lift the boom if your downhaul's sticky. We're just pulling that on a little bit. Just going to push the jib forwards to get it past the mast because the wind is very light. And now we're going to sail upwind because we can't actually sail close to the wind at all unless we've got some main sheet on. So I've got the Traveller in the middle for this amount of wind, and I've brought the main sheet in. Just going to get the boat going again, and then we'll have another look at the telltales on the jib. Okay. All right, so coming back to have another look at the jib. So what we want is both telltales flying straight backwards with the jib in tight. And what that tells us is that we are sailing as close to the wind as possible. If we come up too much, the telltale on the inside will start lifting. That is an early indication of the jib flapping. So then we just have to pull the stick towards us a little bit, just a little bit, to get that to fly. If we go too far away from the wind, then the telltale on the other side will start to drop, and then we need to come back up a bit towards the wind. Okay, so I'm going to get back into my good sailing position. In fact, we have gone too close to the wind there. So if we go too close to the wind, first thing we want to do if a boat is stopping is let the sail out. And if there's any good wind, just by letting the mainsail out, the wind in the jib should take the boat quite slowly. We've got to be patient away from the wind, and then we just have to spot when we start sailing forwards again. Okay, and there it is, sailing forwards. I'm going to come a bit further forwards on the boat myself, because we don't want to be sinking the back of the boat. And now that we're going along, I can slowly bring the main sheet in. Never bring the main sheet in tight until we're going nicely forwards. And then we're not going to go for block to block in this amount of wind. Something like this is about right. But do keep a hand on the main sheet and do practice taking the main sheet out of the cleat by flicking it down. So if we do get the big gust of wind, we can free off. Okay, so we're going along nicely, watching the telltales on the jib with the ability to uncleat the main. We're now going to go for our first tack. So same as before, pushing the stick away, main sheet's in tight, watching the jib. When the jib backs, letting the main sheet off. I've just pulled the main sheet out a little bit there to help it. Bringing the stick around, the same as before. Again, do check out the tacking video that we've already had a look at, I should think. And now that we're through, I'm just gonna, because the wind is very light, I've uncleated the jib, but I just need to push it forwards using the bottom batten there to get it to go across. It hasn't quite, there we go. We do have to be a little bit aggressive with the jib on the 16 because of the battens. And now we're going to bring the boat back up towards the wind again, jib's in tight on the new side, and we're just going to look at the telltales again on the jib. If the telltales aren't working, perhaps because they're wet, maybe you've gone out in the rain, then what we're wanting to do as a rough guide is have our wind indicators at the front going in the same direction as the front of the jib. That is how we can get a rough idea that we're going in the right direction on the upwind. Okay, so we're going nicely there. Okay, and we're going to go on a little bit here. So I'm as far forward as I can, just up by the shroud. That's a good position to sit. Tiller extension over the shoulder, main sheet in the front hand, and I've practiced uncleating, so I know that I can uncleat the main sheet quite easily. Watching the telltales on the jib. That is essential on the upwind course. Okay, so now we could go for another tack. So, I'm going to do it a bit better this time, a bit more sensible. So, tidying up the rope first, then I'm going to sort my legs out. I'm going to tuck the back leg under the front leg, making sure we're still sailing a good course before we go for the tack. And now with the main sheet in tight, but I uncleat it before we go, but I'm still holding it. Going to push the stick away, watching the jib. When the jib backs, releasing the main sheet. Because the wind's so light, I'm going to pull the main sheet towards me. Now going under the boom, taking the stick around, picking up the main sheet on the way through, getting forwards on the new side. Now I can let the jib come across, now that we're all the way through, pushing the jib forwards because the wind is very light, sheeting the jib in tight, and then getting back into that good sailing position and bringing the main sheet in using this technique. Arm over the tiller extension. We can still steer like that by applying some downward force, and then we can use 2 hands to sheet the mainsail in. Okay, we've got a bit more wind now. So we're really starting to tickle along nicely. All right, and we're going to go for another tack. So here we go, getting into this good position, pushing the stick across, watching the jib. Jib's back so we can let the main sheet off. We can now go across the boat under the boom, stick around the back, getting back forwards. I picked up the main sheet on the way through there. Now we just got to do this with the jib. If you haven't got a batten jib, it is a lot easier for it to go across the boat after a tack. All you have to do is release one sheet and then bring in the other one. Now getting back into that good sailing position, stick over the shoulder. We might have steered a little bit too far there. So we're just bringing her back up while we watch the jib telltales. Very nice. And as we can see, we have made some progress upwind by doing this bit of zigzagging out to sea. And we could just do this all day if we wanted. Just zigzagging upwind until we get to where it is we'd like to go. Okay, and I think we'll go for one more tack. So, the procedure again, sorting the legs out first. One thing we didn't mention before is it's a good idea to check where we're going to tack to make sure there's nothing that we're going to hit. So just taking a look there. There is a rather large trimaran there, but I think we'll be okay. Main sheet is in tight but uncleated. Pushing the stick away, watching the jib. Jib's backed, releasing the main sheet. Now we can move across the boat under the boom. Stick goes round the back, picking up the main sheet. And now the jib can go across. Just going to push that bottom batten to help it go across. Pulling the jib in, nice and tight, so then we can use the telltales again. Okay, so we've been upwind. We're now going to go downwind. We can see here the route that we're going to take. Again, on a catamaran, our downwind course is going to be almost the opposite of our upwind course, where we're zigzagging downwind. We could sail straight downwind, but it's not very efficient. So we're going to sail 45 degrees either side of the wind, roughly, and do a series of jibes to get to our downwind destination. So we're going to get going. I'm on the wrong side of the boat at the moment, so all right, so firstly with the mainsail and the traveller, we're going to set the traveller about 3/4 of the way out. We've actually got a knot in our traveller line so that it won't go any further than that. And we're going to have our main sheet quite a long way out. So in fact, the top main sheet block is just over the corner of the raised trampoline there. We can use the jib traveller if we have them to pull the jib out a bit more, making sure that the jib is nicely out. And then on the downwind, still a good idea to keep a hand on the main sheet, but not as important, but still a good idea. Going to have a similar position to our upwind position. We can almost use the shroud as a backrest in this light wind. And then the essential thing on the downwind is our course, and our course we're going to determine by watching the wind indicators at the front, keeping those bad boys going straight across the boat, so at 90 degrees to the boat, and that is what's called our apparent wind, and that is the angle that we need to sail at on the downwind course. Of course, do check out the video on jibing for the complete jibing technique, but we're going to go for our first jibe here. So we're just going to throw the main sheet to the back, and we're going to move to the back of the boat, but at this time we're going to be still looking forwards, making sure we are sailing on the same course. Stick goes round the back, moving right into the middle of the boat, taking the stick on the new side, and we're pushing, guiding the main sheet across our head. There it is. And as soon as we can, sitting down on the new side and looking forwards, getting that 90 degrees angle with the apparent wind again by looking at the tapes. We can then swap the jib over and pushing that bottom batten again to get it to go across. Okay, what I didn't do that time was check the space that we're going to jibe into. That space is under the boom. We're looking down there for where we're going to end up during the jibe. Let's go for another one. Into the middle of the boat, stick to the new side, grabbing the stick, pushing the stick to turn through that downwind corner, helping the main sheet across, going forwards, getting back into our nice sailing position, and then once we're there, we can sort the jib out. And then again, we're just focusing on these tapes at the front. If they come too far towards us, coming backwards, it means we need to sail more downwind, so we pull the stick towards us. If they're going too far towards us, then it means we've gone too far upwind, so we're just going to steer downwind a little bit to come back down. Okay, let's go for another jibe. So just bringing the boat back down first, going into the middle, stick to the new side, pushing it across. There's the boom. We're holding the main sheet so that we know exactly when the boom's coming across, but also to make it a bit safer and just to guide her across. All right, I've just got an obstacle here. There's a yacht on the anchor, so of course we have to sail around the yacht which is on the anchor. We'll give it plenty of space. Always give anything that is anchored a lot of space, because you never know what might happen. Always have in your mind, what if this happened? What if that happened? So perhaps, what if I fell off the boat? What if the mast fell down? Not to put a downer on things. Okay, so we'll go for another 2 jibes, and I think that will do us. So, checking the area that we're going to turn into. Again, we could do this with our legs, where we're tucking the back leg under the front leg. This will help us get into the middle of the boat, pushing up onto the knees, stick to the new side first. I'm grabbing the main sheet here, pushing the stick. When I feel the boom go light, just guiding it over our head. And then once we're on the new side, we'll sort the jib out. And we're just going to go for one more jibe to take us in to the beach. So here we go, one more jibe, coming into the middle of the boat, stick to the new side, holding the main sheet, ducking our head down. We can feel the mainset, the boom go across there. Now I can sit down on the new side, Jib goes across. And now to go into the beach, it's the rules here that we have to go round this orange buoy to the left. So I'm going to come up a bit, but I'm going to keep the sails loose because we're not looking to go as fast as possible. We're just looking to control the boat back into the beach. So we're going to go round this orange buoy, and then when we get to the orange buoy, we're going to turn back downwind by pulling the stick towards us. Do check out the video on how to approach the beach. There's a lot of good stuff there about different approaches to the beach. So there's the orange buoy. Now I'm going to turn the boat more downwind. And then we're going to have to do one more jibe to get back into the part of the beach which we want to get to. We've got some strange vibrating noise, I think because our rig is really tight and the rig is actually vibrating a bit there. Okay, so when we jibe, we end up at about 90 degrees to the course that we started on, as long as these tapes are flying straight across the boat. All right. So we're going to take the boat in quite close to the beach. We'll go for our jibe into the middle, stick to the new side, holding the main sheet, pushing, taking her across. And now we just want to choose where we want to end up. I want to end up over here. So we're going to push the stick quite hard to turn the boat up into the wind, and we're going to make sure the boat has stopped before we jump off. Don't jump off until the boat has stopped. All right, so coming up. Of course, if you needed to, you could have lifted the rudders already on your approach in, pushing the stick up. There we go, the boat has definitely stopped there. So now I'm going to just walk a little bit towards the front. I'm using the jib for a bit of stability. And then I'm just going to plop into the water at the front. And there we go. Successful outing number 2. Right, of course, here at Wildwind, we're very lucky because we have moorings which make everything very easy. If you had any chance to put some sort of mooring in, or perhaps just to put an anchor with a buoy on it, if you are sailing solo, of course, if you're sailing with 2 people, everything is a bit easier because you can always use the second person as an anchor, as well as a friend, someone to talk to and to help you with all the jobs on the boat. But if you haven't got that, perhaps you could get hold of an anchor or a heavy weight with a line and a buoy on it. And with that, you could just attach your boat while you're sorting things out, like lifting the rudders and getting the boat ready for taking into the beach. If we were going to take the boat into the beach now, I would actually drop the mainsail on the water, but I'd leave the jib up and then drop the jib once we're on the land, because dropping the jib on the water is quite difficult. There we go. Fantastic. I'd say that was a successful outing. Okay, so there we go, upwind and downwind. If you didn't see the first outing that we did in our beginners sailing series, check that out. There'll just be a link here that you can check out. But that was taking us on our first outing and sailing across the wind. So if we can sail upwind, across the wind and downwind, that pretty much covers it. The only thing different there will be if we're looking to do it in a stronger wind. So there we go. I hope that was helpful. Please give the video a like. If you're not yet subscribed to Joyrider TV, then please do subscribe, and there will be more videos coming up most days, so hit the bell as well if you want to be notified when the new videos are going up. You'll also find in the description below a full index of videos that I've already made that cover a wide range of topics, both the sailing and maintenance, preparation of your boat, rigging, all of that. You'll find a link to that index in the description below. Thanks for watching. My name's been Joe. This is Joyrider TV, and I'll be back soon with some more. Thank you.